Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome. We are so glad you could join us today. My name is Laura Jones, and I'm the Northwest Regional Coordinator of the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I'll be the host and question moderator for today's webinar, all about Library Reads, presented by Rebecca Vnuk, Kelly Currie, and Michelle Morris. First, allow me to introduce our speakers. Rebecca Vnuk is the Executive Director of Library Reads. She has an MLIS from Dominican University and worked as a public librarian for a decade before becoming the editor for collection management and library outreach at Booklist magazine. Rebecca is the author of 3 reference books on the topic of women's fiction, as well as a best-selling book on weeding library collections. She was named a Library Journal Mover and Shaker in 2010 and was the 2010 PLA Allie Beth Martin Award winner for Distinguished Reader's Advisory Service. She lives in the Chicago suburbs with her husband and 2 tween sons, both of whom still love to read. Woo! Kelly Currie is the former director of Delphi, Indiana Public Library. She served in that position for more than 20 years before retiring in August 2020. She first became involved with Library Reads as a participant, voting and submitting annotations for the list. In 2018, she was invited to join as a board member and has served Library Reads on the social media and list committees. Her favorite thing about participating in Library Reads is the opportunity to read pre-pub galleys and connect with other library people around the country. Her favorite thing about retirement is having more time to read. Michelle Morris is a collection development librarian at Fort Worth Public Library. Her role is to purchase books and provide readers advisory. She is currently on the Library Reads Board of Directors. She graduated from UNT with her bachelor's degree in English in 2004 and her MLIS in 2010. In addition to her passion for reading a wide variety of books, she enjoys picking up crafting hobbies for 3 months and then moving on to something else. Rebecca, Kelly, and Michelle, we are thrilled to have you here today to share more about Library Reads. I do have a couple of quick announcements before we begin. To register for our other webinars or trainings available from our Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library. For a full list of our current in-person training menu, also see our continuing education website. This session is about an hour, so you will receive 1 LEU certificate. I'll be sending that to live participants in an email after the presentation has ended. If you're watching a recording of this webinar, instructions on how to obtain your certificate are in the video's description on YouTube. Or you can also find those instructions on the Indiana State Library's continuing education site under LEU policies. So without any further ado, I will now turn the presentation over to Rebecca, Kelly, and Michelle.
Thank you so much, Laura. All right, let me share my screen here. And let's get that slideshow going. There we go. So thank you again, Laura, for inviting us. I know Laura is a regular Library Reads user, so I'm so pleased that she thinks that we are interesting enough to share with everyone else in Indiana. So I really appreciate you asking us to be here today, Laura. And I really appreciate everyone here watching. Your time is very valuable, and so we appreciate you spending it with us this morning. So let me tell you all about Library Reads. So Library Reads is a registered 501c6 nonprofit organization, and our mission is to connect adults with books that library staff across the country recommend. We also do free training and events for library staff centered on readers' advisory for adult patrons. One of the things that is interesting about our organization is we are a nonprofit, but we are not a charity. So technically, if you work in a library in the United States, you are a member of Library Reads. You don't have to pay dues, you don't have to sign up. We actually receive our funding from publishers. We never ask libraries or library staff for any kind of money support, so you are welcome to join us for free. It's something that I think is kind of special. I like to tell people it's sort of like we're a chamber of commerce for publishers. That's actually the IRS designation we fit into, is business support organizations. So that's a little bit about us. But that's the technical stuff, more about the reading stuff. We advocate for adult books of all types, fiction and nonfiction. So vote for your favorites every month. We're going to tell you how to do that and what happens when you do. As I said before, anyone who works in a public library in the US is eligible to vote. It doesn't matter what your job title is. It doesn't matter if you've got an MLS degree or not. Doesn't matter what department of the library you work in. If you're affiliated with a US public library, you can vote for Library Reads, as long as you read adult books and love to share your recommendations. The only requirement we have is that being affiliated with a public library and being signed up for NetGalley or Edelweiss, or both. We're going to talk about that as well in a few slides. But let's look at our list. So the main product, if you will, that we do is our monthly list. It comes out every month on the 15th, and we publish it to our website along with a link to the PDF flyer that you can use to print out at your library for display or handout purposes. Basically, you do the voting, we do the counting, and the top voter becomes the #1 pick. It is a top 10 list every month and has a variety of genres. In 2018, we introduced our Hall of Fame. Now, this is for those favorite authors who appear regularly on the list. We sort of decided, you know, Jodi Picoult, we just know she's going to make it every time. People shouldn't even have to see her on the list anymore, because we know you're all buying those books. We know you're all reading those books, but we still wanted to celebrate those authors and help promote their books. So we came up with our Hall of Fame. Basically, when an author's third title makes our list, they appear on our Hall of Fame. It's a separate portion of the printout. We have a second page. Sometimes it goes into a third page if we have lots of Hall of Fame, but there we go. So this is our way of recognizing popular authors while opening up space on that monthly list for a broad selection. So another place that we push out our list is on our social media channels. So I'd like to encourage you to follow us. On the 15th, we push out that list via our newsletter, which you can sign up for on our website. If you go to any page of our website, scroll down to the very bottom, there's a little box to sign up for our newsletter. And we only email twice a month. We email the list on the 15th. And then the last week of the month, we email a reminder to vote. So please come and join us on the list. We don't spam, I promise. It's always stuff that you actually want to see, like our list. And then we do individual posts for each of our books and each of our Hall of Fame titles on our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook accounts. So why should you participate in Library Reads? Basically, to increase your familiarity with publishers and what sorts of books they are putting out every month, to increase your awareness of new books and new authors, to enhance your readers' advisory skills, and to improve the patron experience by connecting readers to great new reads. One of the things that I always like to say to people is, it's like reading 10 books a month, but you don't have to actually read them. Someone else has read them for you. They've given you this quick little 3-sentence description of the book that you can easily remember and use when someone is asking. I know one of the things we were doing before the session started was talking about books that we've read recently. And something that I suggested is Jennifer McMahon's The Children on the Hill. She's one of our Hall of Fame authors, so she made our list. And of course, I read it because I like her. But even if I hadn't read it, I have this very easy 3-line annotation that tells me what the book is about, what kind of reader would like this book, how could I suggest it. So even before I had finished reading it, I was able to recommend it to folks just based on our little annotation that someone else did. And that is another thing we're going to discuss today, is our wonderful annotations and how you can get involved in participating with that. So using Library Reads in your library is very easy. Lots of folks use it for collection development purposes. You can check our list against your orders to add books to the collection. We also have Baker and Taylor and Ingram are partners with us, and they pre-create, I guess that's not really a word, is it pre-create? They pre-populate, that's the word I'm looking for. They pre-populate a shopping cart with our titles every month. So you can instantly order all 10 of the top 10 books every month. So definitely check that out when you're doing your ordering. We also think our list is very useful for Reader's Advisory. As I mentioned, it's 10 more books every month that you can pretend that you've read. It's a great place to find book club possibilities. Lots of our blurbs will point out when something is particularly great for a book club. And you can also use our social media. Feel free to use our content on your library's social media as well. Repost our list. I've had the great fortune of being in libraries where they've actually printed out our list and have a display, an ongoing monthly display of Library Reads books. So there's lots of ways you can use us in your library for Reader's Advisory purposes. So I'm going to hand the mic over to Michelle right now, where she is going to tell you all about how voting works.
Hello. First of all, you can find short videos on our YouTube channel that will walk you through using NetGalley, as well as a video tutorial on how to write annotations for a chance to have your annotation featured on one of our monthly lists. Our YouTube channel can be found at youtube.com/LibraryReads, it's one word. In addition, if you head to our website, libraryreads.org, and select the Participate tab, that will take you to several options on how to learn more about our process. If we've got time during the Q&A, we can give you a little website tour and show you Edelweiss. Okay, here's a look at how easy it is. And you find your book, you find the correct locations and save your vote. And so this is kind of an idea. The arrows point to where you give a number rating, the box where you select Library Reads, and the save button. Okay. How to vote. If you're not yet a member of NetGalley, you may register at netgalley.com. You'll be able to request digital galleys and be invited to view new titles. If you want to learn more about how NetGalley works with library staff, there's a link right here on our website. Be sure to edit your profile to identify yourself as affiliated with a public library or your vote won't count. Once again, adding that you're part of a public library is very helpful for them to automatically approve you in some cases, and your vote will be added onto Library Reads. If you're already a NetGalley member, you may vote for any of your approved titles via the Give Feedback button at the top right of the title details page. It's circled right there on the illustration. Be sure to edit your profile to identify yourself as a public library employee or your vote won't count. Note that you can only use NetGalley for titles that you have requested and been approved of via the service. If you wish to vote for books that you have as print ARCs or advanced reader copies, you will need to use Edelweiss. And this is the how to vote again on NetGalley. Once you enter the title, once you've clicked that button, it will take you to this page. And once again, you will select right there, this middle one that says, do you nominate that for Library Reads? And then press Save Edit Opinions. And that's the process for NetGalley. Again, you can find step-by-step instructional videos online if you have any issues. But now that you've seen how to vote, your question is, how do you get some galleys? And this is the process of how you get galleys or advanced reader copies. Now that we're seeing in-person events starting to happen again, you can visit publisher booths if you're at any big events like American Library Association conference, the state shows, the Book Expo America that was one, but we'll see if there's anything that will replace that. Another way is to help publishers find you by filling out as many fields and registration form as possible on your NetGalley and Edelweiss accounts. Usually they'll have sections for you that they'll send you, or you can search that area more quickly. Many publishers have staff devoted to library outreach. These are great people to contact when there is a specific book you want. Early Word has an excellent list of marketing contacts and information at earlyword.com/publishers. Early Word also hosts a monthly galley chats on Twitter, and they are a great place to learn about upcoming titles. once again, earlyword.com/galley chats, but they also have, like, once again, they also have a spreadsheet of diverse titles. So if you're looking for upcoming titles by authors that from different backgrounds, it's an excellent way to find them in advance. And we have a frequently asked questions page on our website, but I wanted to point out some of the questions we get the most. So the important voting reminders are, it's due by the 1st of the month before the book's pub date. And yes, you can vote early, and no, there is no limit before the number of titles you vote for. So right now it is July titles. And so that's kind of what we're looking at. So you have to vote by June 1st for books that are published in July. But if you're reading something that comes out in August, September, October, you can vote and don't have to worry about it in advance. Library Reads is only for titles that are published for adult readers. There have been some YA crossover titles that have hit the list in the past, but in spring 2018, we clarified for voters that appeal is subjective and presents a challenge when tallying votes, so we do not currently include books published for teens. Again, usually if you're on Edelweiss or NetGalley, they will have information, or you can look at the type of publisher, because they'll have something like youth books next to it. Not all genres and subject categories of adult books are welcome, both fiction and nonfiction. We welcome votes for any book by any publisher, as long as you can find it listed on Edelweiss or NetGalley. That's how we count the votes. And if you're voting from a print advanced reader copy or galley, that's not a problem, but you'll probably prefer to vote via Edelweiss. NetGalley only allows you to vote for titles that you have requested and been approved for. This doesn't mean that you have to read the book via download, only that you have it downloaded in your NetGalley account. Edelweiss will let you vote for it, and they just trust you on faith that you probably haven't received a print copy. And yeah.
Okay, I think now it's my turn to talk to you about writing annotations. So if you're a regular Library Reads user, you're familiar with the fabulous annotations that appear on the list every month. Here's a couple of examples of recent annotations we chose. Anyone who votes has the opportunity to write an accompanying annotation. We know that some readers just use Edelweiss and NetGalley to keep track of what they're reading, and they may write annotations just for themselves. But many users take the opportunity to write an annotation that could be selected for inclusion on the Library Reads list. While you don't have to submit an annotation with your vote, we don't want that to prevent you from voting. We absolutely appreciate it when you do. After all, it's what makes our list so special. We get a report of all the annotations and handpick them for every list. We do have some quick rules, and like Michelle mentioned earlier, there is a short video online that gives you tips and tricks for writing an annotation, but I'll go over a few of these rules with you. The first thing to keep in mind is that because of the format of our flyers and our webpage, we're pretty restricted in terms of how long the annotations can be. We ask people to aim for a 280 character limit, or to think in terms of 4 to 6 lines worth of text. Now, this doesn't mean you can't write longer annotations. Actually, it's fine when you do. It's easier for us to cut an annotation down to fit the format than to add text to an existing annotation. Keep the following things in mind when you're writing for publication. Write conversationally. These are not formal reviews. They're blurbs for your fellow library staff members. Use reader's advisory appeal terms. I'll talk more about this in just a minute. Think about what kind of reader might like this book. So what's special about it? Is it a debut? Is it good for book clubs, for fans of a particular genre? Take a look at past lists to get a sense of how long and what the content should be and the style we aim for. And lastly, what other authors or titles could you compare it to? Reader likes are strongly encouraged. The publishers really, really like it when we include reader likes. But don't worry, we will add them for you if you can't think of any while you're writing your annotation. So this next slide explains what not to write. Avoid personal statements. I know we can get excited about a book we really love and we want to tell everybody we loved it, but that doesn't really give us the information we may need to recommend it to someone else or to get someone else interested in it. Try to avoid using awesome and great for every adjective. You know, there are a lot of other words, and if you're like me, I'm constantly using the thesaurus on my computer. Try not to be, you know, repetitive in your descriptions. And lastly, don't assume the reader knows anything already about this book or this author or genre. For example, when you're doing a read-alike, it's better to compare it to a different author than to the same author's previous titles. So here's an example of a recent annotation. You can see that there's a brief description of the plot, which gives the reader just enough to go off of. And you see how it ends with the type of story and some read-alike suggestions. Note also that this annotator is from Indiana. Yay! Author Elise Kova put out these tips in her email newsletter with her formula for a short review. It very much fits our model, although we would have to make just a few changes to fit our format. I'll give you a moment to read over her review of Naomi Novik's book, Uprooted, and then compare it to how we would have tweaked it in our editing process. Note that when we do edit, we strive to use as much of your original wording as we can. So I mentioned Delphi factors earlier. The next slide will show you the appeal factors made famous by Joyce Sarix and Novelist. So we mean things that are going to help readers connect to a book and describe their reading experience. So these are novelist appeal factors. The five main ones: pace, storyline, tone, writing style, characters. The next slide will give you a little more information about the definitions of each of those factors. So I know sometimes thinking about an appeal factor in a very formal way might make your brain freeze, but just think about what sticks out to you as you're reading the book. And usually it probably fits one of these appeal factors, so you can work off of that. Keep them in mind as you write your annotation. Think about what was most important to you and why you really liked the book. So in the next slide, I'll give you some ideas about how we use your annotations. And this is kind of exciting, especially if you've never had anything published at all. This gives you the right to have something out there in the world that other people can read and appreciate. We do reserve the right to edit the annotations for publication, as I mentioned before. And we will also need to confirm your U.S. Public Library employment. Remember that, as Rebecca mentioned, you don't have to be any particular staff description. It can be any kind of job in a public library. As long as you're affiliated with the library, you're eligible. So a member of our editing team will reach out to each chosen annotator to confirm the attribution information, make sure you're still at the library that you had listed in your original profile, and obtain approval of any edits that we need to make. And this is the point at which we can add read likes for you if you are having trouble coming up with some. We want to make it as easy for you as possible. And the annotations used in these monthly lists become the property of LibraryReads and will appear on the LibraryReads website, printable materials, social media, and lots of other communications. And they may even appear on publisher communications. And also, if you are a novelist customer, if your library is a novelist customer, you may have noted that in the reviews tab for a title, you will see the chosen LibraryReads annotation, usually with your name attached to it. So that's pretty exciting. So I'm going to send it back to Rebecca then.
All right, and I am going to, give me just a second, I'm going to go out online so you can see our website, and we'll do a quick little walkthrough of what Edelweiss and NetGalley look like. But I did want to make sure that I get my email up there for everyone. I am Rebecca@libraryreads.org. So please contact me afterwards. We're going to have some Q&A here. So start shooting some questions through in the chat, and Laura will make sure that we see them. But I'm happy at any time to tell you all about Library Reads and how you can get involved. So let me make sure I don't like delete us here, but let's get out online and take a look. All right, so here is, and I'm going to try and not go too fast either through the website stuff so that nobody gets dizzy. So let me know if for some reason it's acting up or anything. But here is NetGalley.
We're still seeing the PowerPoint.
Oh, you are? Okay, hang on just a second.
Thank
Let me make sure all right. Okay, now we're going to share it again. How about now? Okay, great. So when you log into Edelweiss, this is what you see, or at least this is what I see. You can play with your home screen to adjust different things that you see. As a comparison, here's what NetGalley looks like. And then we'll also take a look at our website in a moment. But why don't I start with our voting platforms first? So since we're here on NetGalley, so here's NetGalley, and you can see right away, they give you suggested titles, they have spotlight books, and then there's all this information on how to write your reviews, which I definitely would recommend checking out. Now, here's the interesting thing about NetGalley. It is free for anyone who works in a library to sign up for. As we've said multiple times, you do need to make sure that you've got your library affiliation on there, because that's how we get your votes. And also that is how you get set up to get that Library Reads voter button. If you are just registered as a book reviewer or perhaps a school librarian, then it won't even give you that option to vote for Library Reads. So make sure that you see that. And basically, once you find a book, looks like that, really simple to look at, you request it, and then you're able to download it. And I'm going to go to one that I've already downloaded so you can see. So here we go. Let's see here. So right here, under the book, finished reading, give feedback. So we click on that. Librarian opinions. And this is where you can type in your review of the book. And once you do that, I think because I've already done this one, it's not going to let me do a new one. So hang on just a second. Did I already do feedback for these? It's possible I've already given feedback on these.
Yeah, go to start reading.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go. I've already given an opinion on this, but here basically you want to recommend this. Hopefully you are saying yes if you're voting for it. Do you nominate this title for Library Reads list? Yes. And is your library likely to purchase the title, whether that's a yes or no? And then you can also leave some notes for the publisher. Michelle, what were you suggesting so I can show them one that's not edited already? I think all of these have already.
First one where it says start reading. Yes.
Thank you. Oh, I don't have any to start reading. Okay, hang on a sec. I can find one on the dashboard. Let's see here. Some of these you can, I'm going to go to find titles as well. Well, this is a good way for you to see other ways to find books.
Yeah.
Oh, someone here was mentioning that Taylor Jensen's Read down there. We've got a new Lisa Jewell is coming out. a new Jodi Picoult, as I mentioned. Oh, she's got a co-author on that one, Jennifer Finley Boylan. I mean, this is kind of a really nice way to just sort of see, oh, what's hot right now? What are people looking for? What do they want to read? And I also really appreciate that they tell you right away. I mean, we can tell that these are romances and women's fiction books, but you can see right there, they give you the categories as well. So we're just gonna.
Also, if you register on the left side near the top, if you register as a librarian, sometimes I'll have an area that's set under browse. The third one says auto approval.
Aha!
Will give librarians automatic approval for any title.
Yes.
Sometimes it's smaller publishers, sometimes it's larger ones. Once you build more reviews into your once you've done more reviews, they'll give you, larger publishers will offer more reviews.
We're going to go to this one so I can show you an actual how it works. So basically, I am auto approved on this one, so I can right away download it into a PDF. I can send it to my Kindle, or I can use the NetGalley app, which I've never used before. And Edelweiss has their own reading app as well now. So there's definitely, they're giving you lots of choices on how to access the book. So I've auto approved this. We're going to pretend I've read it. This is actually a dummy account anyway. It's my test account. So here, yes, I'm going to recommend this. Yes, I want to vote for it for the list. Yes, my library is going to buy it. And send opinions. And then it gives me a chance to review. So this very easily is where I could write my review that said why I like this book, what's it about, etc. Give it a rating, and I'll point this out when we get to Edelweiss as well. This actually can be important for us when we get to, we take the top 10 every month that have the most votes. When we get down to like book 9 and 10, occasionally we will have a tie, and we absolutely use those ratings to break that tie. I think at least 3 times a year, 3 months out of the year, we have a tie that needs to be broken. And we will go through and we will weigh, okay, this one got 5 stars 10 times on NetGalley, and only 2 people gave it 1 star. And on Edelweiss, 10 people gave it a 10, but etc. So we will weigh those to help break a tie. So definitely use those. And then here we go. You send that review. Yes, star rating, send the review. Oh, I've got to actually type something. Well, yeah, that's how that. There's rules about that. I don't use NetGalley. I tend to use Edelweiss. So I'm glad that Michelle is here to tell me.
NetGalley has a word limit, so you have to type in so many words in a review.
Excellent. Thank you. So that is how that works. That's NetGalley. Moving over to Edelweiss. This is what what Edelweiss looks like. Definitely a little bit more cluttered, but I kind of started using this first. We were chatting about that earlier, how we have preferences, and this is why we like to offer both of these platforms. And you can absolutely be signed up for both of them. And if you mistakenly vote twice, once on each platform, no worries, we will catch that and only count one of your votes. So feel free to use whichever one makes the most sense to you and is easiest to use. So I'm going to take a look here. Booked on a Feeling, because that just put an earworm in my ear. This is what the title screen for Edelweiss looks like. We're going to open that up a little bit so you can see it. There we go. Got a little summary of the book, etc. Now, to place your LibraryReads vote, you just go right over here to where it says review. Oh, here's how you download it right there under DRC. You go to review and you click on that. And if this looks familiar, that's what we just had on our screenshot there in our slideshow. This is what their area to vote for looks like. So again, we want to make sure you're giving it a number rating. You can go ahead and do these as well. I think a lot of people like to use these also for themselves. And this information will get shared back to the publisher. You can also share your review with the publisher by clicking here Otherwise, they get a count of who's voting, but they won't get your information unless you specifically say it's okay for Edelweiss to send it to them. But right here is where you would write your review. And then you just want to make sure that you've selected the library reads box right there. I've already done that on this book. And then you want to make sure that you hit save. And you know that you've got a book done when it shows up right here with the little heart on it and with your ranking. So that's a quick little look at Edelweiss. Now, looking at our website, this is what you see when you head to our homepage. You see that month's list. So here's our June list. Right now, as Michelle mentioned, we have the voting is going on right now for July and beyond. So I saw the question that popped up in the chat earlier, if it changes every month, and yes, it does. Every month is a new list. It's a new 10. It is books published in a specific month. So that is how that works. How it works. It doesn't repeat. And this is what we've got. We've got our top pick there, and then all the rest follow in alphabetical order.
And you can look at the measure for the review. If I think someone who reviewed that one is here today.
Another Indiana. See, we didn't even do that on purpose. I did not pick that previous review either because it was Indiana. I picked it because it was so good. So yay, Indiana. But we really do. We are very proud of the reviews on this list. As Kelly said, you don't have to do a review with each vote, but boy, we sure appreciate it when you do, because we feel that that's really what makes our list stand out, is that sort of personal touch. It's the fact that these are, you know, we're library folks, we're the readers, we're the experts, and we are giving our stamp of approval to these books. So that's the sort of the highlight of our list, is having these annotations. Now, if you go right here at the bottom and click that for the PDF, you'll have the whole printable list that comes out that you can use in your library, etc. But let's take a quick look over at our Hall of Fame. As I mentioned during the spreadsheet, any author that's got 3 or more books that have hit the list in the past moves into our Hall of Fame. And we do a separate Hall of Fame flyer for those folks. So here's the most recent one, for example. Same concept as the main list. It just varies every month as to how many authors are on it. And I should have pointed out at the top. So Kelly currently is one of our list committee folks who edits the main list, and then Michelle edits the Hall of Fame ones. So every time you see a Hall of Fame author, sometimes we keep Michelle very busy. Usually over the summer, that's when most books more books come out during the year. And I think she's got her work cut out for her coming up in July. I know last July we had 12 Hall of Fame winners that month. And I think we're on track this July also to have a big, heavy list of these popular authors. So I'll just scroll down a little bit here, try not to go too fast to make anybody dizzy, but you can see the nice wide variety of folks that we have. And each one of these folks then, for example, has their own page. They get their own little special look at their books. So for example, here's Talia Hibbert. And we've got her most recent Hall of Fame book. We've got our read-alikes there. And then we've got those previous titles that have hit the list. So each of our Hall of Fame authors gets their own little special spot on the website. So something else I wanted to point out on our site, for example, I mentioned earlier right here, you can subscribe to our newsletter. That's at the bottom of every page. Going back up, we can look at our archive, because we're very proud of our archive. So here you can find, LibraryReads has been around since 2013. So next year is going to be our big 10-year anniversary. Very exciting. And you can find every single one of our lists as a PDF printable. So for those of you who like to do displays of older books, which big thumbs up, the backlist is so important. You can go to any year in our archive. And for example, just randomly gonna pick February 2014. I don't know why. So here's what our list used to look like before we got our new logo and colors. But you can see we've got all of those previous lists there for you. And that's kind of a nice thing to be able to go back and use those for readers advisory purposes. We also, let's see if we can get this to work. We have a master spreadsheet of all of our past titles. I'm not going to do anything in here because since I have editing powers on here, I'll mess things up, but you can go ahead at any time and sort this. You can sort it by publisher. You can sort it. We have it sorted by date. You can sort it by author. You can do the Control F to find any author. We've got different other things that we're working on, marking off what's been in the Hall of Fame, what's a debut author, etc. So here's every single book that has appeared on our list. Go back to our site here. One of the tabs here that gets the most traffic is our How Do We Participate tab. So you guys will want to head right to for library staff. Here we've got those important voting reminders that Michelle was talking about. We've got the screenshots there on, again, how to vote in Edelweiss, step by step. How to vote in NetGalley, step by step. How can I get those advanced copies? And I saw in the chat that Laura put in a link to a webinar that Indiana State has done before on how to get Galley copies. We were really afraid during the pandemic that because previously the best way to get galleys was to go to conferences or to get on those mailing lists and make those personal contacts. And then when conferences went away, how were people going to get this? We were very pleased to see how quickly and easily most people were able to pivot over to getting their digital copies. And our vote counts actually went up during the pandemic, not down. I was very surprised by that. I was very nervous, but we managed to get even more people reading than usual, which is awesome. And that didn't seem to put a damper on things at all. But we've got ideas on how you can get yourself involved with getting these advanced reader copies. And we've got some of our tips here that Kelly went ahead and went through. And there's our voting deadlines. I need to go ahead and update this. It's always the first of the month before the book comes out. So sorry if I'm making anyone dizzy here. We'll go back up to the top of the page. As Michelle mentioned, we do have a frequently asked questions page as well, which will tell you everything you need to know. But again, I'm always available to answer any questions. We also, I really want to point out this, we have continuing education support programs. So I saw the question that came through where someone asked, making sure there's no fee to participate in Library Reads. And that is absolutely a core value of ours, that no, there is never a fee to participate. There is never a fee to be part of it. We also do not charge any fees for our programming. When we used to have like big luncheons and breakfasts, we would charge a very minimal $10 ticketing fee just to make sure that people were actually coming if they were RSVPing. Now that we're not doing the food sort of things anymore, we never charge for any of our programs or anything like that. Our support comes from our publisher friends, and we thank them very much for that. So we will not ever be charging libraries. In fact, we want to give you some of our money. So we have, even before the pandemic, we had our travel grant, which we're now calling individual conference support, because it's not just for travel anymore. You can use this to do online programming as well that there might be a fee associated with. So I encourage you to take a look at this. We have applications open right now for folks who would like to attend ALA Annual. We're taking applications to look at for that. And then if you scroll down a little bit, we are also offering institutional support. So if your library is looking to hire an outside speaker to come in and do programming for you, maybe an all-staff in-service day, or your library director would like to send a bunch of your staff to a webinar that costs money, we are happy to give institutional support for that at all. Main thing to remember is it has to be Reader's Advisory related. We're not sending people to tech services stuff. We're not doing children's programming. It has to be adult Reader's Advisory programming, but that's all laid out in how you apply for it. So please take a look at that. And looking then at some of our events, this is actually a page that is on my list to update. Is we will eventually have an archive of every author that we have profiled before on panels. A lot of what we do at events is author panels. We have 2 author panels coming up actually at the ALA conference in DC in June. And then we're also doing a book buzz. Michelle is going to be on that panel, as a matter of fact, talking about some of her favorite upcoming books. So we have an archive in my email. I have a list of every author we've ever presented, but you can kind of see some previous ones. And then, as Michelle and Kelly have both mentioned, we do have a YouTube channel where you can see some of the events that we've done in the past, and you can view little short videos on how to write annotations. We have an hour and 20-minute long program on Reader's Advisory topics in general that you might like to take a look at. That's all there on our YouTube channel. But I think that's probably a good little look at our website. And we do have about 15 minutes left, so I'm very happy to take any questions. I'm going through, and I know someone asked about, do you have to work in a public library? And I just want to find that question. Yes, okay, so we've got someone asking, what if you work for a different type of library? So that is, it's a question that comes up from the very beginning. The original 10-ish library folks that started LibraryReads as a volunteer organization back in 2013 had very strong feelings about it being for public librarians, because they felt that there were plenty of awards and lists for children's books and not a whole lot for adults, and not a whole lot that really talked about the power of Reader's Advisory that public librarians do. Now, as the years have gone on, we have also recognized that, well, it's not just public librarians that read adult books, right? All kinds of librarians read adult books. However, in order to be sort of vetted on Edelweiss and NetGalley, they do require that you have to list the public library that you work in. So we sort of have an interesting approach to our friends that work in special libraries or at the library system or at the state library, as an example. If you contact me directly, I'm happy to see how we can get you into our voting process. We do have a group of folks that we're calling our LibraryReads ambassadors. And those right now mostly consist of people who work at the state level, at special libraries, librarians who have retired. Basically, if you are still reading and doing Reader's Advisory, we want you to join us. My philosophy is always the more the merrier. Our main thing is we need to make sure that you are affiliated properly with a public library. So Kelly, for example, when she is editing your review, she is going to email you back and say, hey, here's our finished edit, please approve this. And can we confirm that you actually work at the Delphi Public Library? So if you come back and you're like, well, I used to work there, we just want to make sure that we're not assigning someone's workplace that they don't actually work at.
Yes.
So if your library director, after you've retired, or let's say you're a trustee or you're, anything like that, as long as your library director is fine with you claiming an affiliation to that library, we're fine with that too. And I see the question just came in, do you need to be librarians? Absolutely not. Absolutely, we want your circ staff.
Yes,
Those folks are the folks seeing all those books come through. Yes, Michelle, do you have
Yeah.
something you want to add to that?
Yes, you can be a page, you can be a library assistant, you can be not, you may not be like, you can be an administrator and you can enter that. And so, yeah, I think one of our ambassadors, maybe there might be someone that's like friends of the library. So yes, like you work with the public library, because the publishers are very interested in what public librarians are seeing that their patrons like to read, or what they like to read, or so they get a better idea. That's how we think. I saw another question earlier, was like 10 books every month, 10 different books, no repeats, but yeah, it's new books because once again, we only go by that month. And so new books that come out that month, no reprints. And sometimes we've had a question is like, well, this author was in the Hall of Fame, but if they have a co-writer, they'll be included. For example, I mentioned that I was reading Taylor Jenkins Reid's Currie Soto is back. I know that she's going to be in the Hall of Fame because she's a very popular author, but still, I just kind of get an idea what to expect. But yeah, and even popular authors or reprints aren't included. But yeah, we do vetting of the list before it comes out. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Those are good points to make. And yes, they are absolutely free. It's free to join Edelweiss and NetGalley. It's free to download those books. They
Free to give
actually,
reviews.
I have to give Edelweiss and NetGalley a shout out. They also work with us for free. It's very kind of them. They don't charge us for their data, which is delightful. So a big thank you to them for sharing your information with us. We appreciate that from them immensely.
Yeah.
So what else can we say about some of our voting process and our books?
So if anyone has
we
any
have
other
people on our board that are not degreed librarians as well. We've got several readers advisory assistants. So yes, any department in the library. And it is kind of funny. I will fully admit this. It is a little funny that we are fine if you work in the children's department and you want to vote, and yet if you were a school librarian, we don't let you vote. So we're sorry about that. But here's an interesting thing I'll say to that. It really is because, as Michelle noted, the publishers are very invested in what's happening at public libraries, right? The people who are publishing adult mysteries and adult science fiction and adult romance, they're not selling to the school market. They are selling to the public library market. And we do know, we've all worked in libraries. We know that children's department also talks to grown-ups. So we definitely, anybody who's reading adult books and doing readers advisory on any level at a public library, that's really the thing that counts. Michelle, do you have something to add to that?
The new question from Ashley Reyes is, does anyone
Yes.
read NetGalley books on desktop instead of phone? I usually read mine on a separate tablet, and usually there's options to download it to a Kindle reader, depending. Once again, you have to look at the options because the publisher sets what formats that it can be reviewed or read in. You can also download e-audiobooks. Once again, you have to look and see if it's available in e-audiobook format. I know NetGalley specifies it differently, but you can also search through their the categories on the left for that. Once again, there's different apps that you can add to your phone, and once again, it depends on your space, but you it might have to kind of look, but you can email us and we can see, maybe we can try to help troubleshoot, but usually there's an app for a tablet or to read an ebook on there. But once again, usually they have Kindle options, but there's other e-readers. I use Pocketbook to read some of the ebooks. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, Michelle, that yes, some of these do have audiobook downloads as galleys as well. And Michelle made a very good point. We don't control any of these galleys, the publishers do. So the publishers are the ones who decide what format they're putting it into. I know Penguin Random House, I think, probably does the most variety because they're the largest publisher probably ever, but they are the ones that we see a lot of those e-audio votes come through, and we will get those no matter what format you've downloaded it in. They will send us those votes, no problem. But yes, it is the publishers who decide, and it is also the publishers who decide what books get onto NetGalley and Edelweiss. as I mentioned, they don't charge us at all, but they do charge the publishers to be on their platform. So that is why there are some books that you'll see right away, and there's something else you may have heard of but isn't on, or perhaps they've got it listed in Edelweiss, but there's no download button or no request button. That is all up to the publishers. We don't have any control over that, but they seem to be, you know, there's a good flow to what you can find on there.
Okay, I don't think we have any more questions coming in now, but I did want to mention I am having a webinar on June 29th with some folks from NetGalley. So it's going to be an in-depth look at their website and how it's best used by librarians and library staff. So I put the registration link in the chat, so I hope you'll join me for that as well. And I also want to give Rebecca, Michelle, and Kelly a huge hand. This was wonderful, great information, and thank you all so much for taking the time to present today. As a reminder, if anyone's watching an archive recording of this presentation, information on how to get your LEU certificate is in the description on YouTube. And we will now stop recording.